Nick Centauri, The Case of the Lacuna Galaxy. Chapter First and Last. Greetings from Centauri, specifically from Sim Plan Small A smallish planet about the size of Earth revolving around Proxima Centauri, which itself is the smallest star in the Centauri system, which includes two of the larger stars. My name is Nick Centauri, and in the long-standing tradition of my long-gone forebears and my current relative, Nick Nearcastle, I am a theological private eye, TPE. In other words, I work long hours for the big guy, make little pay, but hope to have the kind of retirement that one can only dream of. Now, my real first name is Nick, but my surname is an affectation I took on when I entered the TPE business. My real surname is Centaurian, and for the average earthling who might be reading this, is both unpronounceable and unspellable. No earth letters exist that can approximate it. So, knowing at some point I would probably be writing a narrative such as this, another Nearcastle tradition, I decided to call myself Nick Centauri. I hope you like it. I do. It has a ring to it. Nick Nearcastle is more than just a relative of mine. He's my grandfather. And he and his wife, Miss Information, my grandmother, are the parents of my mother, Miss Adventure. Miss Adventure, or Mom, just happened to meet my father Frank while accompanying my grandmother on one of her routine trips to Centauri. She, grandmother Miss Info, makes the trip every 8 years so she can stay in the same age range as my grandfather Nick. If you want to understand how this happens, I recommend you read Maybe I'll See You in the Spring, a Nick Nearcastle novelette, who, like me and my mother, have Centaurian blood and therefore do not age in any significant way after we reach the age of 30 or 35. On one of these trips, my future mother, Miss Adventure, met Frank, my future father, at the Centaurian Croquet Olympics, then dated on and off for a few hundred years before Frank popped the question. It was Frank's first marriage. Frank was a little older than Miss Adventure by a couple of billion years. It's not unusual for Centaurians to wait a while before getting hitched. Centaurians tend to marry for life, and when your lifespan is 4 trillion years, hooking up to who you hope will turn out to be Mr. and Mrs. Right is definitely a paramount consideration. Rushing into wedlock is just not the Centaurian thing to do, unless you're my great-great-grandmother, Maria del Solstice. But that's another story. You may wonder what kind of theological conundrums I run into while serving as sole TPE for the entire Centauri system. Well, not many. You see, Centaurians don't have much of a theology of any kind. For one thing, they have no real or imagined fears, which are the basis of most religions. Why is that? Well, it has to do with having perfect health, almost total recuperative powers, and the ability to live for 4 trillion years. Legend has it that God went straight from Sirius to Earth, bypassing Centauri, realizing it would be a long, long time before it would need him. By the way, God didn't spend much time in the Sirius star system either, quickly finding out they were also on the independent side, even if they only lived for a couple of billion years. Earth, on the other hand, has proven to be a totally different story. Most of God's goodwill had long been used up there, and if it weren't for the rapture, some summary divine judgments that took place just after the rapture and the Centaurians' hasty departure a couple of thousand years ago, who knows what shenanigans would still be taking place on Earth, or even if it still existed at all. But Earth is now at peace and has been for a long time, so much so that Grandfather Nick is even thinking about retiring from the TPE business. He says 3,000 years of doing anything, even milking cows, is probably too much. I'm not supposed to know this, but I think Grandfather Nick is considering a proposal from Miss Adventure, my mother, and his daughter to work for her in the area of store security. She owns a chain of stores called Snobby Lobby that are located on all 27 inhabited planets and planetoids of the Centauri three-sun system. Snobby Lobby specializes in catering to snobby Centaurians who represent about 99% of the population. Wouldn't you be snobby if you were a Centaurian? But to be fair, I found that most snobby Centaurians are nice snobs. Over the past 2,000 years or so, I've seen Grandfather Nick in person only a handful of times. He's usually too busy with his dairy farm chores or involved in solving a minor theological conundrum to make more than a very occasional 8-year journey to Centauri and back to Earth with his wife and my grandmother, Miss Info. When I do see him, is here on Sin Plan Small a, short for Centaurian planet that starts with a small letter A. Centaurs aren't too adept at giving their planets and planetoids catchy names. One thing about his visits, and just one of the reasons I look forward to seeing him, is that he brings Sloppy's barbecue with him when he comes. We have nothing like that on Centauri. The closest we've got is barbecue tofu, and believe me, it's really not anywhere close to the real thing. My Celestial starts playing Onward Christian Soldiers. It's TPE Central, or TPEC. Nick C. here. How's it going, Nick C.? Fine and dandy, just writing a few words about what I hope to be my next great adventure. TPEC. Have you given it a name yet? That remains to be determined. What's up, by the way? We need you to rendezvous in Maverica as soon as possible. Editor's note. Maverica is the custom-made planet assembled halfway between Centauri and Earth and owned by F.Y. Maverick, great-great-uncle of Nick Centauri and uncle of Nick Nearcastle. How do I get there? Find a ride to Simplan Large C and report to the spaceport in Centauri City. There you'll find the Syrian freighter Your Mama's Not As Fat As She Used to Be preparing for takeoff. We were able to talk the captain and get into giving you a lift to Bavarica. Can you give me any details on my mission? No. The best and fastest way to get to Simplan Large C, in my humble opinion, was to catch a ride on a snobby lobby lorry. I called my mom, Misadventure. What's up, hon? Do you have any lorries leaving Simplan Small A for Simplan Large C anytime soon? How soon? Like a few minutes ago. Let me check. Give me a sec. I was put on hold. While on hold, I listened to the astrophysics lectures of the celebrated Centaurian astrophysicist, and here's a blank. Remember, Centaurian names are unpronounceable and unspellable. It was an interesting talk. He was lecturing on alternative timelines. Was this topic a harbinger of what was later to come in the story? Misadventure Mom came back on the line. Turn around. I did so, and a snobby lobby lorry was parked in an adjoining parking lot. Thanks, Mom. You're the best. I expect you to join Frank and me real soon for some barbecue tofu. The lorry delivered me to Simplan Large C in a matter of minutes, and very soon I was reporting to Captain Cassandra of the Syrian freighter, Your Mama's Not As Fat As She Used to Be. Captain Cassandra. Welcome aboard, Mr. TPE. Good timing, by the way. We're blasting off in 15 minutes. She invited me to the bridge, saying it was no point in making myself comfortable since we should be reaching the outskirts of Maverica in less than an hour. I thought it took about 2 years to get there. That's only when you travel at the speed of light. New Syrian space propulsion technology allows us to go much faster than that now. Are you talking warp technology? Hell no, that sounds like something out of a science fiction television series. How do you do it then? If I told you, I would have to kill you, and you Centaurians, even half-breeds like you, are hard to kill. That's okay. Here's another question. How will I get to Maverica's surface? That wasn't part of the deal with TPEC. They didn't pay for that. We will, though, open one of the cargo bay doors when we get within a few 100,000 miles of the planet. I should have known. A little while later, I was escorted to the cargo bay by a couple of Syrian centurions. As longtime readers know, all TPEs are equipped with that most marvelous of inventions, the wallet. The 51st century, in these pages we always stick with Earth time, version of the wallet included a specialized force field that enabled individual space travel. Since I was only part Centaurian, the incredible coldness of space, while not killing me, would pretty much render me helpless. The force field kept me both warm and mentally competent. All I needed was a push in the right direction, and the Syrian centurions were more than happy to accommodate me. The cargo bay door opened, and I was quickly on my way. It didn't take long for the planet Maverica to emerge into full view. It reminded me of photos I had seen of Earth. It looked to be about the same size, but it wasn't blue. I guess Uncle FY hadn't had time yet to install large bodies of water. The most spectacular sight, though, was the bright orb circling the planet. I'm guessing it was about the same size as the Earth's moon, but instead of looking barren and being pockmarked with craters, it was ablaze like a miniature sun, which from what I read about it, it was. I suddenly realized that my primary navigational objective was to at all costs avoid either falling into the miniature sun or passing by it at too close a distance. Either circumstance was less than optimal. As I approached Maverica's atmosphere, I concluded that I would need to slow down significantly, or there would be a good chance I would burn up long before reaching the surface. I am glad to say I was able to both successfully slow down as well as miss by a wide margin the miniature sun. My first question for Uncle FY would be, what was the name of his planet's miniature sun? In all probability, it would be something nostalgic and counterintuitive like Dark Avenger. I touched down in a grove of what appeared to be pecan trees. My descent into the grove had shaken quite a few limbs, and more than a few pecans had fallen to the ground. I figured why let them go to waste. I cracked the pecans open by squeezing two at a time. They were quite tasty, but now I was thirsty. Perhaps I would soon cross a babbling brook. As far as I know, the only inhabitant of Maverica was F.Y. Maverick, and he was living in the capital city of Forever Young. It was a city with no people in the plural. One man lived there, and he was king, president, mayor, and prime minister all rolled into one. I took out my wallet and activated the GPS, God Positioning System. I requested directions for Forever Young. I was 687 miles southeast of it. Not bad. I could have easily been 10,000 miles away. According to the GPS, I would have to cross a couple of mountain ranges, but according to their average heights, there were more hills than mountains. As I mentioned earlier, Maverica did not yet possess any large bodies of water, so that factor meant I wouldn't be slowed down by switching to swimming. I could use some water to drink, though, so maybe I would soon happen upon a freshwater stream. I was a little stiff from traveling through space in the cramped bridge of the Your Mama's Not as Fast as She Used to Be, and then being held tightly by the Wallet force field as I was propelled from the Syrian freighter to the planet's surface. I did a few stretching exercises, then started a slow run of about 10 miles per hour in the direction of the capital city. In just a few minutes, I was up to a cruising speed of 30 miles per hour, which I planned to maintain until I ran across some drinkable water. I was right at 57 minutes into the trek when I came into view of a small waterfall. The water was cold and delicious in its own way. FY had done a good job of making Maverica a pleasant enough livable place. But was anyone besides FY living here? My celestial started playing Onward Christian Soldiers. Nick C. here, TPAC. We were just checking on you. How's it going? Great if you consider flying headlong through outer space with only a Wallet force field to keep you alive. Sorry about that, but you know how these Syrians are. They don't like anything that might interrupt or disrupt their schedule. It's all water under the bridge now. Can you tell me anything more about my mission? Not much other than it's universe shattering. I'm impressed, but why choose a relatively new TPE for such an assignment? Wouldn't a more veteran TPE be better suited? We decided you were the right man for the job. FY will fill you in on the details. God luck. It took me over 20 hours of steady running to reach Forever Young. The Maverican terrain was for the most part smooth, though at times slightly hilly. The grass was an amber green, and I had to wonder why. Was FY developing a new type of landscape? Reaching Forever Young, I noticed there was only one permanent building, and it pretty much constituted the whole city. Outside the building was FY's famous MPV, or multi-purpose vehicle, that he had brought with him from Earth. Apparently, FY was still living in it. The permanent building turned out to be a research facility devoted to FY's ideas and innovations.